Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics Podcast, the least pretentious fitness podcast on the planet. Dylan, it's great to see you as always, man. Happy fall.
Yeah, dude. It's cold and dark.
It happened. It happened all of a sudden. But it officially became fall for me because I made my first pilgrimage to Lambeau Field yesterday to watch the Green Bay Packers beat the crap out of the Arizona Cardinals. It was a really special day because I took Archer, my son, with me for his first regular season game, and it was awesome.
Was it not torrentially downpouring for the majority of the game?
It was not torrentially downpouring for the majority of the game. It was raining for the first half, and it was a cold rain with wind. And if you know my son, he acts like he's never going to be cold. So no matter how many times I tried to warn him or really like try to get him to dress appropriately, he didn't listen. So we did miss the entire second quarter live. We saw, luckily Lambeau's awesome because there's TVs all over the place. But it was cold in the second quarter, so we went to the pro shop to get Archer a sweatshirt and some gloves, and then a foot-long hot dog at the concession stand.
Sick.
But then by the time we got out there, the sun actually poked his head out for a little bit in the third quarter. But yeah, all in all, I've been to worse Lambeau games. Never rain. But I've been to some brutally cold games before, so the rain really wasn't so bad.
Yeah, the Pack are back. Fun age to be getting into to Packers and sports. I'm sure is he taken to it well?
Dude, he is obsessed. I mean, sports in general. Like he will watch. Like usually, when we're winding down, part of our nighttime routine is he picks out like a show that he gets to watch, and on Thursday nights now he will choose to watch like Thursday night football. Doesn't matter.
I love that.
Doesn't matter the matchup, and it's football, it's baseball. He's a gamer, loves sports. Which is obviously super cool for me. But yeah, he was pumped about the game. It was awesome. But one of actually as good as the game, because I remember going to games with my dad, and it was such like a really special experience. It's something ingrained in my memory. But they've done such a good job over there with the whole Titletown district. We parked over. They built this, outdoor football field, like this turf football field that is open to the public, 8 to 9 p.m., right across the street from the stadium. And after the game, he asked if we could, toss the ball around. So, we went back to the car, grabbed our football, and, we spent half hour, 45 minutes after the game running routes on this, on the football field outside of Lambeau. Really, really cool. So yeah, it's a really awesome place. I mean, obviously your boy is a few years away from being able to do that, but it's, highly recommend.
Yeah, man, that's magical. Fucking cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. How about you? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, the rain got me. I was at a wedding and outside wedding.
Oh no!
And
Oh no!
It came down, so all the wedding guests had to go out and grab a chair, bring it under the pavilion.
Oof!
So I was wet for the majority of the wedding in my suit.
But you were out in Oregon for a wedding.
I was. That was last week, and that wedding was dry. Yeah, we had the entire week I was in Oregon. It was 70 and sunny and cool at night. It was a perfect introduction into the fall, but. Yeah, this Wisconsin wedding did not cooperate.
Well, that is the risk you run with an outdoor wedding in October in Wisconsin.
I took that risk, and I was feeling very grateful that we got away with the weather we did for our wedding 3 years ago. My anniversary's on Wednesday. My
Oh,
3 year
that's
wedding.
right. Yeah, I should know
Yeah,
that I officiated your wedding.
you
So,
did. Yeah, for those that don't know,
yeah,
Pastor Matt.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I actually just got, it's funny. I just got an email from the website that I got ordained through, like congratulating me on my 3-year anniversary.
Yeah,
So,
we're
so
both ordained ministers of
that's
the
right. That's right. Fun fact
marriage.
about this podcast.
Yeah, takes about 10 minutes online, and you can
It's
you too can marry
I
your best friend.
honestly, when I did that, there was part of me that was nervous that it wasn't a real like website because it was so easy.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's super simple to become an ordained minister.
yeah. I hope I'm actually married.
Yeah, yeah, facts. All right, let's transition to the hot topic of the day. This is kind of a fun one. It is about, well, I mean, I say it's a fun one, and then what I'm about to say next is going to sound so boring. It's about a new type of lettuce, Dylan.
Sick.
Yeah, yeah. A team from, I think they're in Spain, the Research Institute for Plant Molecular and Cellular Biology, IBMCP, has genetically engineered lettuce to be way higher in beta carotene, which is, it's an antioxidant used to make vitamin A, right?
Yeah, it's yeah, the carrots, right? Eat the carrots.
Carrots, yeah,
It'll,
yeah,
it'll
yeah.
help your eyes, give you better vision. But I think
Hmm.
it's good for like immune function, healthy cell growth. It's a super important antioxidant. So pretty cool. Um,
Yeah,
I think there's always been this big kind of dispute over whether or not we should be genetically modifying our food, and it's as nuanced as any other topic. Um, Genetically modifying food became very popular with Monsanto. Basically, they developed a pesticide that would kill pests and then increase yields of things that were grown. So, but what they found out was the pesticides were also killing the crops. So they genetically modified crops to make them resistant to the pesticide so that it killed the pest and not the crop. And that's led to all sorts of issues with pesticides in our food supply and whatnot. But genetic modification of food can be really fucking cool too, as is evidenced by something like this. And I wonder if this becomes more popular. The supplement industry is so rampant. Why don't we just make our foods a bit richer in these vitamins and nutrients that people need to make it a little easier on them and on their wallets? So, yeah, pretty fucking cool.
yeah, and that actually, it's a good point because not only, and this is important, not only is it 30 times higher in this beta carotene, but it's more bioaccessible too, which is important because that's
Yeah.
one of those things that like we talked about with multivitamins and supplements is, you can take, something that is 300% of your daily value of a certain vitamin or mineral, but if it's not in a bioavailable form, then you are literally just pissing money down the toilet. And so, it sounds like, and obviously, I don't have a ton of research on this stuff. It's pretty brand new, but it sounds like this is all bioavailable. So, pretty cool. And then you also get the other benefits of lettuce too, the fiber, the water that comes with it. So, yeah, there's obviously a lot of nuance when it comes to genetically modified foods, but this seems like something that should be a win.
And another interesting thing to note is our soils have become so incredibly depleted.
Yeah.
And where a lot of our food gets its nutrients from is from the soil itself. So I think there's studies that have shown that like broccoli today has a certain percentage less nutrients in it than broccoli grown 50 years ago. And a lot of that has to do with the depletion of our soils. So perhaps another way to kind of combat that, we talked last week in our hot topic about how people who are even eating very healthy diets are still very deficient in micronutrients and necessary vitamins and minerals. So cool to see that they're doing something about it. Hopefully they can produce it at low cost, get it to the market, make it accessible to people because it's really important to our health.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting this isn't like the first time that this has been done. So there's stuff like purple tomatoes and I guess like sweet potatoes.
Purple potatoes, yeah.
Yeah, so both of those are another genetically modified food that is here. I got it right here. Those ones are rich in another antioxidant called anthocyanins. So this is something that it has been done before, and yeah, like I mean, obviously there's always going to be some pushback when it comes to genetic modification of food, and I'm not going to be someone to say that it's always going to be necessarily a good thing, but like you said, if our soil is unable to produce as nutritious of foods as it was because of everything that we've done, now obviously you want to attack it on that front too, find ways to return those nutrients back to the soil, but in the meantime, this seems like something that could be helpful.
Yeah, man. So you have a new segment for us.
New segment alert, Dylan. Yeah, there we go. It's called. Oh, what brilliant name did I have? Now I lost my notes.
Worth it.
Worth it. That was it. Something short and sweet. So this is actually a pretty sweet product. So I'll already spoiler alert. I think this is worth it. You'll note if you've listened to the show before, you know my struggles with my smartphone. I went as far as even getting rid of my smartphone for 2 weeks before I tapped out and had to get back into the real world. But thanks to some really good target marketing and actually a couple guys that went to our high school, Dylan. These guys are younger than us. They were in, I think one of them was in my brother's grade. So they're like 9 years younger than we are. They developed a product called Brick, and I got it right here. So this brick, it's magnetic, so I just keep it on my refrigerator. And what it does, it's attached to an app on my phone. And what I can do is open up the app, and I get to pick not just apps, I get to pick the apps and websites that I want to block on my phone. So when I tap my phone to the brick, it will lock out those apps. I will not be able to access them until I go back and unbrick them. So it's a pretty cool design because I mean, even though like how I've been using it is pretty much just like when I get home from work, I'll just go and brick my phone, or maybe even if I sometimes you want to scroll on Instagram for a little bit when you get home from work, but after I've done a little bit of that, I make sure before dinner time to tap my phone to the brick, and then for the rest of the night, I just can't look at Instagram. I can't look at Twitter. Just so I have it to block those social media sites for me. And even though all I have to do is walk up to my refrigerator and tap it again, just adding that step has made it so much easier for me to disconnect from my phone. I don't even, I don't even think about it. And I really think it's a pretty cool product.
That's so badass. Yeah, it was targeted to me too, and I sent it to you, and you'd already known about it. But yeah, it's not a ton of resistance, but it's enough, right? Like you can do these things on your phone where you set timers or whatnot, but then by the push of a button, you can just override that. You got to physically get off your ass, go to the refrigerator, tap the thing, or I'm intrigued to try it too because I think like sometimes I'll go for a walk. I want to have my phone so I can be reached if I need to be, but I really just want to walk and be intentional with that walk and present in the walk itself. But if I have my phone in my pocket, I have that impulse to pull it out and do something. You tap the brick before you leave the house to go on that walk, and you're not going to have access to those social media apps till you get back to the house and tap the brick again. So I'm I don't have one, but I'm really a fan of it conceptually. I think with the high school connection, we maybe need to hit these guys up and see if they'll give us a promo code for our listeners.
I like it, man. It's a great idea. So right now, right now you can get it on their website for it's like $50. But yes, we will work on that. I love that idea, Dylan. But I'm all in on brick, and you're exactly right. I had it. Before I went to bed last night, I tapped it. I bricked up, as I like to call it. So I bricked up, and I left it. I left it there all day. I left it until right before we started recording, so I could pull up that article about the golden lettuce because I found it on Instagram. But otherwise, I've been bricked up all day, and it's awesome. It just adds, it allows that smartphone to be a tool again without having to really be all that. Making the discipline easier, because you still have to be disciplined. You have to tap it. You have to make it work for you. But there's not that constant distraction that is always looming. And so I really think it's a cool product. And what's awesome is one brick, like Matea can use it too. Like if you came over and had the brick app, you could use mine. It's not like cool. it's one per phone. So I think it's a really good deal. But we'll work on that promo code and see if we can get an even better deal for our people.
So if you've been listening to the podcast, a lot of what we're about is making health, wellness, both physical and mental, as accessible as possible for, real people. And I think this worth it segment that we're adding, Matt and I try stuff all the time. And accessibility a lot of times has to do with cost. So we're going to try some stuff, and then we're going to report back and let you know whether or not the investment that we're making in something is worth your time, in our opinion, or time and money. And worth it. The brick passes the worth it bar for sure.
Yeah, and then maybe we can come up with like a cool sound effect for when things are worth it.
Yeah, the production value of this has some real potential. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah. All right. Let's transition to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. We are focusing on the medium rocks, the next 5 things to focus on. So if you listen to, I believe it was episode 33, we talked about things, the small rocks, the first 5 things that you needed to be doing. The big rocks. Sorry, not the small rocks. The big rocks, the giant rocks, the big ones, the 5 things that you needed to be doing before you started really spending a bunch of money on health and wellness. So Dylan, do you want to run the people through what those things were? Do you have that handy?
I do. And so, yeah, if you haven't listened to episode 33 yet, I highly recommend pausing this episode, going back and listening to that one. Because these are really the 5 things you should be doing before all else, before you consider doing the next thing, before you spend any money on anything related to health and wellness. These are the biggest rocks, the foundation, the 20% of things you can do to yield 80% of results. So after you're doing these 5 things consistently, we're going to give you 5 more things to consider. But the 5 things you got to do first are make sure you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. You're moving your body daily and you're strength training weekly. You're getting 3 servings of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, and 30 to 40 grams of fiber per day. You're getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of target body weight per day. And you're drinking enough water, roughly 64 ounces or so of water every day. So get those 5 things right first. Go back and listen to that episode. And once you've got those 5 things in place, and I don't mean once you've done them once, I mean once you're doing them consistently, we're going to give you 5 more things to do next.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So now join back in. So now that you've listened to episode 33, we're going to start with our first medium rock. And this one, no surprise, it also ties into sleep. But there's a lot that, we talk about the quantity, how many hours. Obviously, you just listened to our last episode. We want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. But enough sleep is not always is not always enough, because not because of the number, but because of the quality of the sleep. And there are a ton of things that we have done negatively to impact sleep quality over the past decades. So it's really difficult to get a good night's sleep in 2024. But we are going to give you some tips as to how you might be able to optimize those 7 to 9 hours that you're getting.
Yeah, and I think the biggest of which is we're just not really evolved to deal with the types of blue light exposure that we get, especially after hours. And so we inundate ourselves with our phones, with our televisions, with the lights in our home. And from a circadian rhythm point of view, in our biology, the light is supposed to go away at a certain point of time. And that controls our hormonal cycles, how we produce melatonin, and that melatonin ultimately informs how we sleep and the sleep cycles that we go through overnight and the quality of the sleep that we get. So limiting that blue light exposure as the sun goes down is critically important. And there's certainly some free things you can do to make that happen. You can watch less TV. You can try to get off your phone at a certain time. There's even ways to kind of limit the blue light within those different devices. You can use some features in the phone or the computer to turn them into night mode or whatever. I like to use lower lights. There's a number of different things you could do to limit that exposure. If you do want to spend a little money, you could look like that nut job, that health and fitness influencer nut job that wears the
Dave
blue
Asprey.
light block. Dave Asprey.
Yeah.
You don't have to wear them. You don't have to wear them to work. But
Yeah.
if it's 7, 8 p.m. and you're sitting down for some TV, you could put some blue light blocking glasses on, and that'll help with that blue light exposure to your eyes. So
Matea just got a pair. Well, especially, she's a baker, and so she's got to go to bed super early, and so a nighttime routine for her is super important, and she has struggled with sleep quality. And so she just started wearing them. I don't think enough, she's been using them consistently enough to really know if they are having a ton of impact yet. But I do think I've got a couple friends up here that wear them religiously, and one of those things where they say it makes a difference once you use them consistently. And then if you aren't wearing them one night, you can really start to tell the impact that those blue lights do have on you. So, one of those things. I haven't taken the plunge yet, but I guess don't be surprised if one day you watch the podcast and I'm recording in my Dave Asprey glasses.
Yeah, another investment you could make is they make some pretty cool light bulbs now
Mm-hmm.
that where you can modify the light being given off by said light bulb to not be in that blue light spectrum. So I've actually got a few upstairs, and they're programmed at a certain time of night. They sort of turn this orangey color, mimics more of like a candle light. That can be really helpful as well. You can still sort of see what you're doing, but it's not giving off that harsh spectrum of blue light. So that's a big one. Some other things have a lot to do with, well, I think we should certainly talk about the sleep routine. Like everybody talks about the morning routine. Having a good sleep routine is incredibly important as well. Whatever that might mean for you, it certainly probably has some to do with when you're starting to limit that blue light exposure, how you wind down, whether it's reading a book, meditating, breathing exercises, a bath, whatever it might be. But figuring out what works for you to help you get into a parasympathetic, relaxed state before you jump into bed instead of watching some stressful drama till 10 p.m.
Yeah, don't watch Baby Reindeer and then and then go right to bed.
Yeah, or what was that movie where the dude was drinking the cum out of the bathtub?
What?
Oh, dude, if you haven't seen this one, you gotta watch it. It's the one that he's dancing in the house naked at the end of murder on the dance floor.
Oh my God.
I'll look it up and report back while the podcast is going on. But we watched it right after we had Everett, and it was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So I was trying to come up with analogies for all of these points because I like when I listen to podcasts and they are able to deliver their point with an analogy. I think it's really helpful. So I'm gonna lay some of these on you, and you tell me if they hit or not. So the one that I have for this one is, sleep quality is a lot like charging your phone. You ever have like an old phone, like, or maybe like the charging port is like a little dusty, and you plug it in all night, but when you wake up in the morning, it had a bad connection. So that's like, poor sleep quality. So if you don't have a good nighttime routine, if you're watching Baby Reindeer or whatever, the Come Bathtub movie, Saltburn. Okay.
Yeah.
Saltburn. I didn't see it.
Oh, dude, watch it. I'm not recommending it, but you should watch it.
Okay, got it. So yeah, if you're watching Saltburn or Baby Reindeer, and then popping into bed, it's like trying to charge an old dirty phone.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that charging port is clean. You got to make sure that your nighttime routine is solid. Obviously there are some cheaper investments that you could make. Dylan, you've talked about your little Sleep Diva routine with your eye mask. But that's something like what? How much did that eye mask cost? Couldn't have been more than like $15.
Not even. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there are things that you can make. But actually, another thing that I think is super important and can be a little bit challenging sometimes is that temperature regulation. So you want to make sure, and I don't actually have it here. I should have written this down before the show. I don't know exactly what the ideal like room temperature is for sleep, but it's chilly. It should be relatively cold in your room at night, and that can make a huge difference on the quality of sleep. So, it can be tough in the summertime, especially like we don't have air conditioning in our house. So, we have fans and a window air conditioning unit, but it's one of those things that might not always be possible, but whenever it is, and if you are looking to upgrade your nighttime routine, getting your room to that optimal like sleeping temperature can be really important.
Yeah, I looked it up. It's 60 to 67 degrees.
That's chilly.
That's chilly. Yeah, so with you on both points, dark and cool. So blackout curtains, eye mask, whatever you got to do to get it as dark as possible, and then cool. There, if you're rich and you have the means, there's some really cool stuff you can do for temperature control with some of these new things like 8 Sleep, where they essentially use water. Essentially it's a mattress cover that uses water to control the temperature of the bed. I've never used one, but I have listened to a number of people talk about how helpful they've been for temperature, body temperature regulation while sleeping. So, yeah, man, sleep quality just as important as sleep quantity. Let's get the quantity right, and then let's start to make the tweaks necessary to get the quality improved.
Mm-hmm.
Another really important thing is to consider your environmental exposures. So, similar to how we didn't really evolve biologically to be exposed to all this light late in the day, we certainly are not evolving at a pace as is required to be able to keep up with all of these environmental exposures that have come with advancements in technology and in industry. So I'm talking things like plastics. We've talked about Teflon pans before. Different scented products, lotions, candles, perfumes, pesticides.
Dude, there's scented trash bags now. Like,
yeah,
it's insane. And I am not really a huge like nose sensitive person, but like even I am like starting to wake up to all of the scents that we are inundating ourselves with on a daily basis, and it's wild. Really is wild. And once you really start to pay attention to those things, it's really eye opening and nose opening. To really see like how many different like senses we're exposing ourselves to on a daily basis is crazy.
And there's two things going on at a public health level that are I don't want to be hyperbolic, but like detrimental to the survival of humanity. One is sperm counts are decreasing
Hmm.
significantly in men. So that's a major problem. The other is the rates of cancer in young people are increasing dramatically. And I'm sure it's being studied, and there's all sorts of hypotheses out there with regards to why these things are happening. And I'm not saying that this is true, but if I were a betting man, I would say a lot of it has to do with these environmental exposures. So we know that a lot of these things are endocrine disruptors, meaning they can interfere with our hormones, which very much could, and I'm saying could, I'm not suggesting that any of this is causative. We need to understand it better, but could certainly impact sperm production in men. And these things are very much linked to cancer, reproductive issues, developmental problems, immune system challenges. So these things are concerning. So what would I do? I think this is where some investment could come into play. But something I did is I got rid of plastic everything, especially as it related to my food and my cookware.
Yep.
So like all those plastic containers that you reuse over and over, the Teflon pans, replace it with glass.
Odom.
Get rid of that shit. Like it's gonna cost you a little bit of money, but I think it's really critically important to our overall health. We don't really burn candles anymore. Courtney now
No,
has a
us neither.
candle warmer. Just kind of heats the wax, gives the scent off a little bit. That's kind of nice. Really be conscious of like the pesticides you're putting on your yard, the the pest control stuff that you might be having put around your yard or around your house. Those things are super damaging. The cleaning products that you use, you use a Clorox wipe on your dinner table, or I saw a woman who was suggesting that she didn't know that they weren't good for food surfaces and was wiping her kids' high chair table off with like a Clorox wipe to
Oh boy.
disinfect it. Yeah, I mean those kinds of things. And another one that I think people really should be cognizant of is their water supply. There are all
Yes.
sorts of things that can be present in there, and it's such a low cost intervention to get an under the sink water purifier, or even a just a Brita filter pitcher if that's what you can afford. So start thinking about this stuff. Think of ways you can kind of limit your exposure to these things. Stainless steel pans, maybe some cast iron, some glass containers. Those sorts of things will have a huge impact.
Well, and a lot of that cookware even, can be bought secondhand, like cast iron pans
Yeah.
and stuff. It's not like you have to necessarily go out and get all of that brand new. Maybe something like your water filter. Like we have we live in the country, and around us is a lot of like farms and cherry orchards, and apple orchards where we know there is a lot of spraying of pesticides that happens around here. So we have a countertop water filter that we use that I think has been well worth the investment. But it's just one of those things that you really have to pay attention to, because it's just like so many different things. My analogy for this one, Dylan, the environment, your environment is the terrain of you're running a trail race here, and that's the terrain where you're not necessarily able to control every factor. There's going to be some things that are going to be beyond your control, but it is important to be observant. And once you're starting to be more observant of that terrain, you're able to to pick the route that is that makes the most sense for you and for your family. So we're not suggesting that you need to go out and spend a ton of money on all this stuff, but just starting to pay attention to those environmental exposures, the lights that you're under, the water that you're drinking, the cleaning products that you're using, and just how can you start to make those things, if it is something that is, potentially, something that might be, concerning for you, how can you upgrade that a little bit?
6.5 out of 10.
No, yeah, that one was okay. Not my favorite. All right. The anything else to say about the environmental exposures here, Dylan?
No, no, good.
All right, let's move on to the next one. So this one is something that is, I think super important, and something that I am still struggling with doing consistently. But when I am not doing it consistently, I can really feel it, and that is a structured rest day. And what I mean by that is, we talk a lot about the workouts, the stuff that we're doing in the gym, the cardio that we're doing outside of it. But on those rest days, not having them just be, doing nothing. There still should be some structure to it, some active recovery, your daily movement and mobility practices. If there is any pain points or things that you're struggling with or just trying to improve generally, some targeted stretching and activation. But bringing structure to those rest days, to make sure that they are not steps backwards, that you're continuing to move forward, even on those days when you're not in the gym.
Yeah, if you can only afford a personal trainer session or two, I think the best way you could use those is to invest in a personal trainer, even for that limited period of time, to identify where you have those sticking points in your movement patterns, and have them give you like a prescription of different mobility and stretching exercises you can do to target those sticking points and pain points. That will transform your life. And then what I would do with that, like I know I have very tight hips, I have pretty poor ankle mobility, and so we've heard a lot about like exercise snacks as being really popular. I really like mobility snacks. Like throughout the course of those off days, I get on the ground and I do some 90-90s. I do some pigeons. I do some combat stretch to work on the ankle mobility. And it doesn't take a ton of time, but the thing that's going to benefit you the most with mobility is frequency. So just do it a lot when you can. When you're watching TV, when you're waiting for the oven to preheat, whatever it is, figure out where you have these mobility gaps, identify them, get a prescription of, 5 to 10 different mobility exercises you can do, and just do them when you can throughout the course of the week, especially on those kind of off days from the structured workouts. I'm a huge fan of that. That's helped me a ton.
Yeah, and I think that the easiest places to add those, one, and I tell this to every one of my personal training clients, is, when you're watching TV. Like if you are hanging out at the end of the day, instead of plopping down on the couch and just passively sitting there, spending, and starting with just a couple minutes, but building up and spending as much time as you possibly can actually sitting on the ground. And like Kelly Starlett talks a lot about the importance of fidgeting, how good, just sitting, a floor sitting is, not with the intention of sitting still. You're not supposed to be able to just hold a position, for an hour, that we're not monks meditating here. But, to just be on the floor and just paying attention to your body, you will learn a lot about, spots that are tight, things that feel good, things that don't feel good, just by sitting on the ground, moving around. And, you can really get just a nice, easy, like you said, just quick, easy stretch and strengthening with that. I think that's a really great idea. The other places that you can really, easily add it that I think have so much bang for your buck is first thing in the morning, some sort of like morning mobility routine, and then part of your nighttime routine. That's a great way to, to get ready for bed. Just some sort of stretch, and especially then, if you can incorporate some, some sort of like deep breathing technique, some box breathing or any, parasympathetic breathing technique. I think that can be a huge stack for people.
Yeah, more active mobility in the morning, and then really look to that more static stretching before bed. It helps to engage that parasympathetic nervous system and can actually help you sleep better. So, kind of ties into point number one.
For sure.
The only other thing I'll say is walk. Like, figure out how
Oh,
to enjoy
yeah.
walking. Whatever you need to do, go on a hike, play golf, whatever you need, listen to a podcast, whatever it is. Those off days, like you said, they shouldn't be sedentary, and walking is the king of all exercise. So figure out how to enjoy it.
Agreed. You ready for my analogy?
Oh, we need your analogy. Hopefully it's better than the
You
last
thought the
one.
last one, what'd you say, 6.5 out of 10?
Yeah, 6.5.
Guarantee this one beats it. Okay.
All right.
So rest days, rest days are like pit stops in NASCAR. It might feel like you're slowing down, but without them, you're going to run out of gas. You're going to get a flat tire. There's going to be some damage that you cause. So these rest days are so important to keep to keep the engine running clean.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. I'd give you 10, but NASCAR's lame. So
IndyCar, Formula One, F1.
F1's kind of cool. Yeah. All right.
All right.
All right. Next up, we got improving your social connection and community. And we've talked about this one before, but this is massive. This could maybe have fallen on the first list because I think the more we learn about the negative impacts of loneliness, the more this is becoming important. And as the world evolves and we become more and more digital, we become more and more separated, and the risks that are going to come with that are endless. We've noted some of these before. We've talked about the Surgeon General's note that there's studies suggesting that social isolation and loneliness can increase the risk of early death by as much as 25 to 50%, depending on the population group and study. But that type of risk is comparable to the health risks associated with smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And we know how bad smoking is for our health. So, like, that alone is headline enough, I think, to say we have to figure out how to connect with people. We're talking about the risk of early death here. But there's other things as well, right? Like chronic stress is associated with loneliness, raise our blood pressure, and is having issues that are associated with heart disease, everything from heart attack to stroke. Loneliness is terrible for our mental health, increasing the likelihood of depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. So there's all these different things. It even weakens the immune system. It makes you more vulnerable to illness. And I think the big one I want to highlight here is community provides purpose. And I think a lot of people lack that nowadays. Or they look for it in the wrong places. They're trying to find it in their politics, or all these other places that are just odd. And it doesn't even necessarily, I think we feel like we have to find it in our job or our career too. And sometimes that's not the case. But where we can go to find this always is with other people, in community, in collective purpose. And when we lack that social support, people are more likely to engage in unhealthy behaviors, overeating, substance abuse, smoking cigarette, whatever it is. So this is a huge one, right? Like, it has all these negative consequences, and the benefits of it are amazing. We make better decisions. We are better people. We have more purpose. We live longer. So we got to talk a little bit about how we find this if we don't have it, I think.
Yeah, and while there's not necessarily anything inherently wrong with like a digital connection, making these social ties over the internet, I think the priority should be placed on in-person connections. Because I do think there's so much value in being in the same room as somebody and being able to, actually reach out and physically touch them to see, their reactions in real time, to be, to really be present with people. So while, it might be easier to make some of these social connections online, I do think that it's so important to do as much as you can to make these connections in person. When I think about how social connection and community, benefit my life, I think about the accountability aspect, and just knowing that there are other people around me that are, that I look up to, that I don't want to, let down is not the right word. I don't think, but, just people that you want to be a better person for, and making it easier to hold yourself accountable. If you hang out with people that go to the gym, if you hang out with people that strength train, that care about their nutrition, that go to yoga class, you are far more likely to do those things. And so, being able to find that community, that community of people that hold, those similar healthy values that you have or are trying to instill, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. Because, it's people that aren't, that you can, help you show up on those days, when maybe you don't want to show up for yourself.
Yeah, really well said. I think when I think about where we can kind of go to find some of this, you hit on some of them. I think a lot about church and religion. Like, I'm not a religious person, but grew up very religious and recognized the benefit that I got out of that having a lot to do with kind of ethics, morals, and the community. And people nowadays are less religious than ever before. And I've started to look around. I think there are some really good churches out there that are providing some of that, ethic and moral and community purpose without maybe some of the stuff that turned me away from the Catholic Church itself. That can be a really good place to go. Play a rec sport, join a club, a group. I'm really fortunate to have a very close group of friends, but I often think about, if I didn't have that, what might I do? And I think there are some ways to do that. You just do have to take the risk, take the time, make the effort. But whatever it takes, ask a friend at work, out to lunch, whatever it is, find something you're passionate about, find a group of people that are also interested in that, and figure out how you can spend more time with them, because it's really important to our health.
Yeah. So, I mean, perhaps, Dylan, you might say that the community is like your spotter in the gym, because, it's not about, they're not gonna do the work for you. They're not lifting the weight for you. But they're there to catch you, catch you when you fall, hold you accountable, and, to push you when, and maybe the motivation is lacking. Might you say that?
Yeah, that's okay. I think that the community is kind of like salt.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
like food sucks without salt. Ask Robert Irvine.
Yeah.
You got to
Okay.
salt that food to make it taste good. So, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. I like salt. Yeah. No, salt's good. Salt's
All
like
right.
salt.
I'll work on this for next time.
All right, sweet. I think we just have one more, and this is something that, man, oh man, I absolutely love. This is something that is free. It's something that can be an absolute game changer for people, and it's habit tracking. I mean, we wouldn't be a health and wellness podcast if we don't mention James Clear's Atomic Habits at least once every 4 or 5 episodes. So but that book was revolutionary for me. I know you read it and really enjoyed it. And one of the things that he really recommends is habit tracking. And the best part for me about habit tracking is you can do it for good habits or bad habits. You just write down either the habit that you want to make, you want to do regularly, or you write down a habit that you want to cut out. And then, at the end of every day, you look at your list and you just put, a dot, a check mark, star, whatever it is, next to that thing. And then, over the course of days, weeks, and months, you can look back and see the things that you were focusing on, see the things that, that you were and did on a daily basis. And, it just makes it a heck of a lot easier to see those trends, because a lot of times we aren't able to see them in real time. But when you have it on a piece of paper on your calendar like that, it just makes it so much more real.
Yeah, life should never really be about perfection. It should be about continual improvement. And this will give you the opportunity to kind of monitor that over time. When you're thinking about doing habit tracking and you're trying to consider what are the good habits I want to implement or the bad habits that I want to limit, I think one of the most impactful things you can do as it's related to your health, your wellness, just your general well-being and your life is wherever you are today, just take inventory for a little while. Like just take inventory of what you're doing. What are the things that you do throughout the course of the day? Where are there some bad habits you might want to curb? Where are there some opportunities to implement some better habits? You know, you may record that you've only slept 4 to 6 hours for the last week. There's a real opportunity there, right? Let's get that up to 7 to 9 and start to track that over to time to see if and how you're continually improving. And then iterate on that. Identify maybe why it's not happening. What do you need to do to make it happen? There's so much potential in this for making improvements. And I would really urge people when they're doing it to just try to continually improve day over day, week over week. The risk in this, I think, is people will set out to achieve perfection with this. They'll have 4 really good days of a bad day, and the whole thing goes off the rails because they feel like they failed at the mission they set out to achieve. And the only reason you'd feel like you failed is if you set out to achieve perfection, which should never really be our goal. So yeah, this is a great one. Go read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It's fantastic. And take inventory of your life. Identify where there are some opportunities, where there's some habits you want to curb, and start to think about how you can track that to improve over time.
And if you're not a big reader, the audiobook is on Spotify. So if you have Spotify, you can listen to the audiobook.
If premium account, yeah.
Right. One. Or if you're not going to do that, sign up for James Clear's newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter. I think a lot of newsletters are bunk, but his is really solid. It's simple, it's short, and it really does have great practical advice. But I really liked what you were saying about chasing perfection and how that is such a something that's going to get you nowhere and really end up messing with you mentally. I heard a story about how Jerry Seinfeld used to do habit tracking. Have you heard this one?
No.
So he'd have his calendar, and what he would do is every day that he wrote a new joke, just every day that he wrote a new joke, didn't matter if it was a great joke, didn't matter if it was a shitty joke, 10 jokes, one joke. Every day he wrote a joke, he put a big red X on his calendar. And his goal was not to have every day filled with red X's. The goal was simply to have more red X's than none. And, it can be as simple as that. If you have one thing, obviously for him, his goal was very simple. He's a comedian. That's what he does. That's what he wanted to focus on. So he just had to track, was he making progress in that area? So it can be as simple as just as one thing that you want to start changing. Because a lot of times we try to change so many things all at once, and it becomes overwhelming. So, starting with just one thing can be absolutely massive.
I love that. Really good.
Oh, you know what? It said reconnecting, but now I'm back.
I'm here too. Hopefully we got it.
Hopefully we got it. Otherwise, we'll have to take that. Take that again.
Production and value improvements coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah, or perhaps, maybe you can cut that part out in post, or leave it in, and then we get to, everybody gets to see how the sausage is made. You got anything else to say about habit tracking?
No, man, I think well said. So that kind of wraps.
Okay.
That wraps the list of the next 5. These are the medium, large rocks, and I think we'll continue to build on this. So we gave you the boulders. We've given you the kind of medium, large rocks. We'll continue to talk about some more you can start to add over the course of time. But again, those first 5 things, let's get them consistent first. We can start to consider some of the stuff we've talked about today. And then maybe there's some opportunities that come after that. But it's It's gradual. It builds on itself. It's about continual improvement, not perfection. So give this stuff a shot, and I think we're confident that you'll benefit greatly from doing so.
Absolutely. Q&A or
Yeah. So
no?
the question from the listener was, it's a simple one, but I kind of like it. I think it's a fun thing to talk about quickly. Um, what do you eat for breakfast most days?
Oh, great question. Okay, personally, I am out the door relatively early. I gotta get to the gym. And I'm not a huge like big breakfast guy to begin with. So if I'm like tomorrow it's I'm in the gym super early. I'm there at 6. So tomorrow morning I won't be eating breakfast. On the days that I do eat breakfast, it'll be 2 to 4 eggs. It'll be a piece of toast. It'll be some form of fruit, either like blueberries or apple are usually my go-to. And then I'll have some, either like sauerkraut or kimchi, because we always have that in our house. So yeah, like I usually eat breakfast probably about half the days in the week, and it's 2 to 4 eggs, piece of toast, fruit, and then some fermented veg.
Very, very similar.
And then
to mine.
on Saturdays, I work at Matea's at Bakery Culture, so I have like a buttload of bagels. But that's it.
Stop bragging. Yeah, man, I'm a 3 or 4 egg guy, couple pieces of toast, some berries, and I typically have a yogurt. But on days where I'm on the move, like when I'm going into the office, I'll usually do a big fucking smoothie. And that is typically frozen fruit, some yogurt, some protein powder, some chia flax, hemp seed, some kefir sometimes instead of yogurt, and some water or ice, and I just blend that puppy up and I'm out the door. So yeah, that's what it is for me. It's what it is for you.
And I love that. I should say on those days when I'm not eating breakfast, I still am. I'm prioritizing hydration. So before I have any sort of caffeine, I'm having at least 2, sometimes 4 glasses of water, and then I'll switch to coffee with usually like a little bit of half and half to go with it, like a cup or 2 of coffee with half and half. And then, for lunch or, my first meal of the day, I tend to do, like the big salad that we talked about, whether that's like sardines, tuna, or, chicken, some form of protein, just on greens. And so that'll tend to be my first meal on those days when I'm skipping breakfast. So it's not just not worrying about it. There's still some rhyme and reason to it.
So that's
all right. Should we wrap up the show? Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Time to do the I Lift a Sad Song of the week. Dylan, it is your sad song this week. What do you got for us?
The playlist is missing, I believe, Taking Back Sunday submission.
It definitely is.
There's some obvious ones that I was gonna choose here, but the more I thought about it, the best gym song by Taking Back Sunday is "A Decade Under the Influence." So that's what I'm submitting.
Oh, that would not have been that would not have been my first thought,
Sleeper.
but I like it. I'm gonna have to go back. It is a sleeper. I'm gonna have to go back and give it a listen. So, all right, everybody, we really appreciate you listening. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.